Liam had always believed he was a heavy sleeper, the kind who could rest through storms, sirens, and even earthquakes, but nothing had prepared him for the night. He woke up to the sound of breathing that wasn't his. He lived alone in a small basement apartment, damp and cold but affordable, and for months everything had seemed normal. But 3 weeks before the incident, he began noticing small, eerie changes, items misplaced, lights left on that he was sure he had turned off, and strange sounds echoing through the vents late at night. He brushed it off as stress until the night the breathing started. It was slow, heavy, ragged, and close. So close he could almost feel the air brushing against his cheek. His heart hammered against his ribs as he forced himself not to move. The room was pitch black, silent except for that low, wet exhale hovering beside him. Gathering every ounce of courage, Liam reached for his phone, but just as his fingers touched it, the breathing stopped. The silence was even worse. When he turned on the flashlight, the bed beside his was empty, but his closet door was slightly open. He never slept with it open. Terrified, he slipped out of bed and crept toward the door to flee, but before he could reach it, the closet creaked. Something inside shifted. Liam stood frozen as the door slowly opened wider, revealing a sliver of darkness. Then he heard whispering quiet, frantic whispering coming from deep inside. He ran, barefoot and shaking, and didn't stop until he reached the street outside. The next morning, he returned with a friend and a police officer. They found footprints on the inside of the closet, indentations on the dusty floor where someone had been crouching for hours, maybe days. Even worse, the crawl space behind the closet was big enough for someone to move through the walls. The officer said the evidence pointed to someone living there. The whispering, the breathing, the items misplaced, it all made sickening sense. Liam moved out that same day. He never found out who had been living inside the narrow crawl space, watching him sleep, waiting in the dark just a few feet away every night. But sometimes, when he tries to fall asleep in his new apartment, he swears he can still hear that slow, heavy breathing. Ava worked the late shift at a roadside diner in the middle of nowhere, where truck drivers and travelers stopped for coffee at all hours. It wasn't glamorous, but it was quiet enough until the night the man in the dirty gray jacket walked in. He didn't speak, didn't look at the menu, didn't acknowledge anyone. He just sat in a booth in the corner, staring blankly at the window. His clothes were wet as if he'd been walking through rain, but outside the sky was clear. Ava hesitated before approaching him, noticing his hands were trembling slightly. "Coffee?" she asked. He didn't respond. She set the cup down anyway. That's when she noticed the deep scratches on the table in front of him, fresh, like someone had dragged their nails repeatedly across the laminate. After several minutes, the man finally whispered, "Don't let me fall asleep." Ava froze, confused. He looked terrified, truly terrified. "They come when I sleep," he said, voice cracking. She tried gently asking who they were, but his head jerked violently, and he hissed, "Don't look at them. Don't ever look at them." With shaking hands, he gripped the coffee cup but didn't drink. Ava stepped away, feeling uneasy, but when she returned moments later, the man was gone, leaving the cup untouched and the scratches even deeper. She hurried to the door, scanning the empty parking lot. No car, no footsteps, nothing. When she returned inside, she found a folded, damp piece of paper on the booth seat. Nervously, she opened it. Inside were scrawled words. "They stole my face." Sick to her stomach, Ava turned the note over. There was a sketch of the man. Except his face was a smear of black scratches, like something had clawed it out. That night, Ava couldn't sleep, replaying his warning over and over. When she finally drifted off, she dreamt of figures standing in the corner of her room, tall faceless silhouettes watching her. She woke, drenched in sweat. At work the next night, police officers stopped by, asking about a man matching his description. Ava told them everything. One officer exchanged a troubled look with the other before saying, "He died 2 days ago." Found on the highway, looked like something had ripped his face off. Ava quit the job a week later. The nightmares haven't stopped. Nate was driving home on a foggy winter night when he saw the girl standing on the side of the road. Barefoot, shivering, and wearing a torn white dress. As Lowedoon rolled down the quay, she then silent pointed down the round the realty, Eliterin. She sat motionless, staring straight ahead, her hair dripping with ice-cold water that pooled on the seat. Nate tried making small talk, but she didn't react until they passed a narrow dirt road. Suddenly, she screamed, "Stop!" Her voice cracked so violently it made Nate jump. He slammed the brakes. She pointed down the dirt path. "Home!" she whispered again. Against his better judgment, he followed the road until it led to an old, collapsed house. The girl opened the door and stepped out, her bare feet leaving wet prints on the frozen ground. Nate hurried after her, worried she'd hurt herself, but she vanished into the darkness. Calling out for her, he pushed inside the wrecked house, where the air felt wrong thick and freezing, like a freezer. In the corner lay a body. A girl, wearing the same white dress, long dead. Nate stumbled back, heart racing. And then he heard it, soft breathing behind him. Turning slowly, he saw the good girl, except sunken, asking gray and empty. She opened her mouth, but no sound came out, just a long, agonizing gasp of cold air. Nate ran for his life, not stopping until he reached his car. When he looked in the rearview mirror, the girl was standing at the edge of the path, watching him, her hair blowing in the windless night. He reported everything to the police, but they found only the decayed body in the corner. And footprints, Nate's, and another set of tiny, barefoot prints that led straight to his car door. And then disappeared.